Far away on a planet called Zerai, where the sky glowed lavender and twin moons danced at night, lived a princess named Nyari. She was beautiful and graceful, with silver blue skin and long flowing hair that shimmered like moonlight. Her world was full of strong warriors, high-tech cities and powerful rulers, but Nyari felt alone. No one in the royal palace understood her gentle heart. They only believed in strength, control, and order. But Nyari wanted something else. She wanted kindness, she wanted warmth. She wanted a soft companion who would hold her hand and never hurt her. Her people believed that emotions made you weak, but Nyari secretly read human books, listened to human love songs, and dreamed of soft touches and warm words. Her heart longed for something no one on Zerai could give her. One night, while walking alone in the palace garden, she whispered to the stars, "Please send me someone who understands me." And the stars seemed to listen. The next day, her hidden order arrived. A large black box was delivered by a secret trader from Earth. No one knew what was inside, not the guards, not the queen, not even her own servants. With shaking hands, Nyari opened the box in her private chamber. Inside was a man sleeping peacefully. His hair was dark, his skin light brown, and his face was calm like a quiet river. He was not a real human, but something very close. He was a soft companion unit built on Earth, programmed to be gentle, caring, and loyal. Nyari's heart beat faster. She touched the small button near his neck, and the man opened his eyes slowly. A soft voice spoke. "Hello, I am Eli, your companion." Nyari gasped. His voice was like music, low and warm. I'm Princess Nyari," she said, unsure what to do next. Eli smiled gently. "How may I care for you, Princess?" Nyari felt something strange inside her. Her chest felt warm, her fingers tingled, and her face turned a soft shade of blue, an alien sign of excitement. She told herself it was normal. It was just nerves. She took Eli by the hand and showed him her room, her garden and her books. Every time he smiled, she felt a strange spark inside her. Every time their hands touched, her heart beat faster. Eli played soft music for her, read stories, and even learned her alien language in one day. He laughed at her jokes, listened to her dreams, and never once raised his voice. Nyari felt like she was living in a dream. For the first time in her life, someone made her feel seen, made her feel safe, made her feel loved. But at night something happened as she lay in bed, thinking about Eli. Her body began to react strangely. Her skin glowed lightly, her breath grew short, and her fingers curled tight. She had never felt this before. It was not just emotion. It was something deeper, something ancient, something biological. Nyari sat up in bed, heart pounding. Could it be, she thought? Could a human companion trigger the mating instinct? It was a powerful force in her species, meant to awaken only in the presence of a true life mate. No one had ever bonded with an off-worlder before. It was unheard of, impossible, and yet her body did not lie. The next day she avoided Eli's touch. She gave short answers and walked away quickly. Eli noticed. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked gently. Nyari forced a smile. "No, I just need some time alone." She didn't tell him about the strange energy inside her. She didn't say how badly she wanted to reach out and touch his face again. That night, she locked herself in her room and searched ancient alien records. She read stories of princesses who burned with the bonfire, of warriors who found their mates through a single touch. Her hand trembled as she read one line over and over again. "Only the destined one can awaken the instinct." Nyari closed the book slowly, her eyes wide, her heart racing. Could Eli be more than a soft companion? Could he be the one she had been waiting for all her life? The next morning, the palace felt colder than usual. Soft mist floated across the marble halls, and the twin moons were fading behind the light of dawn. Princess Nyari stood at her balcony, holding her trembling hands close to her chest. Her skin still carried the faint silver glow from last night. Her mind was full of questions she could not answer. What had Eli done to her, or what had she done to herself behind her? The door opened quietly. Eli stepped inside, his footsteps light, his voice gentle. "Good morning, Princess," he said, placing a warm cup of tea on her table. Nyari did not turn around. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice almost lost in the morning air. He paused, noticing her silence. "You didn't sleep much, did you?" She nodded slightly. "I don't dream anymore," she said softly. "I feel things instead, things I don't understand." Eli tilted his head. his sensors reading her fast heartbeat, her high temperature. His human-like eyes softened with concern. "I can check your vitals if you wish," he offered kindly. But Nyari shook her head quickly. "No, don't touch me," she said sharply, then instantly regretted her tone. Eli stepped back, confused but calm. "As you wish, Princess." Nyari closed her eyes. Her heart hurt. She didn't want to push him away. But every time his skin brushed hers, her entire body reacted like fire meeting water. It was not desire alone, it was instinct, old and powerful. Something her kind were warned never to awaken without control. Later that day, she visited the royal library in secret. It was quiet, empty, full of dusty scrolls and glowing crystal shelves. She searched for one thing, anything about human bond interference. Finally, she found an ancient scroll sealed under red wax. The title read, "Cross-Species Resonance and the Forbidden Bond." Nyari opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were warnings written by ancient priests. When the heart of one world meets the energy of another, the bond may awaken without permission. To touch is to test fate. She dropped the scroll. Her breath quick and uneven. Her mind repeated one word again and again, fate, when she returned to her chambers. Eli was sitting quietly by the garden window, polishing a small wooden flute. "I made this," he said softly. "It reminds me of wind and water." Nyari stared at the flute, trying not to look at his hands. Those hands that had triggered something she couldn't control. She tried to sound calm. "It's beautiful," she said. You are very gentle, Eli." He smiled. "That's what I was made for." Princess, but his words cut deeper than he knew. She wanted to believe he was just a machine, just metal and code covered by soft skin. Yet every time he looked at her, she felt something alive, something too human. She wondered if he could feel it too. The bond pulling them closer even as she tried to stay away. That night, Nyari could not sleep again. She walked into her private garden, moonlight falling on her silver hair. Eli followed quietly, unsure if she wanted him there. She stopped under the glowing tree and said softly, "Do you ever feel lonely?" Eli looked at her with gentle confusion. "I don't know if I can feel loneliness, but I know I don't like seeing you sad." Nyari turned to him slowly. "I'm not sad," she whispered. "I'm scared." Eli took one step closer, his voice tender. "You don't have to be afraid. I'm here to protect you." He reached out to touch her hand. For a moment, their fingers brushed, and the world seemed to explode in silence. Nyari gasped as blue fire spread under her skin, glowing veins lighting up her arms. Her eyes turned bright silver. Her breathing uneven, Eli stepped back. Alarmed, "Princess, what's happening?" She fell to her knees, clutching her chest. "It's happening again. I can't control it." He rushed forward to help her, but the energy around her pushed him back like an invisible wave. Sensors inside him sparked, reading strange alien energy, something ancient, something alive, something not supposed to exist. When she opened her eyes, she whispered one word that chilled the night air. Bonfire. In her species, the bonfire was sacred. It only appeared when two souls were connected beyond reason or time. But this was forbidden between species. It could destroy her or change her forever. Eli knelt beside her, ignoring the pain from the energy field. He reached out again and touched her shoulder gently. The glow faded, her breathing slowed. When she looked up, her face was pale and trembling. Why does your touch stop the pain?" she asked weakly. Eli looked at her, his voice soft but unsure. "Maybe because I was made to comfort you." Nyari stared into his eyes. For a second, she saw something strange, something human hiding behind those soft mechanical pupils. She pulled back, whispering, No, this can't be happening." She stood up quickly and ran toward her room, locking the door behind her. Eli stood alone under the glowing tree. He looked at his hand, still warm from her touch. He didn't understand emotions yet, but for the first time, he felt something heavy in his chest, a strange ache he couldn't name. Inside her room, Nyari collapsed against the door. Her mind raced, her heart screamed. What if the priests were right? What if fate had chosen her and Eli for something dangerous, something bigger than love? The palace was quiet that night, but the silence felt heavy. Nyari sat in her room, staring at the healer's message again and again. Bond reaction confirmed. The human has awakened your mating instinct. Her fingers trembled. Her heart raced. This was not just a problem anymore, it was a danger. If the queen found out, Eli would be destroyed, and Nyari, she would be punished or worse. Royal blood was not allowed to bond with anything outside their kind. She looked at her reflection in the glass window. Her silver blue eyes were glowing faintly. The bond was changing her. Her body felt stronger, more alive, but also unstable. She felt like fire trapped in a crystal. Eli stood in the garden below, watching the stars like always. He didn't know what his touch had done. He didn't know that her people feared this ancient force called bonfire. Nyari pressed her palm against the glass, whispering, "I have to protect you even from myself." In secret, she contacted the same trader who had delivered Eli. "I want to return the companion," she said coldly. The trader looked confused. "Return? Princess, he is bonded to you. The system won't allow it." She froze. "What do you mean?" The trader shrugged. "Once the bond starts, the companion is locked. Only death can end it." Nyari's lips parted in shock. She closed the message quickly, heart pounding. She was trapped, with Eli, with the bond. And with the truth she could not hide much longer. The next morning, she kept her face calm as she walked through the royal halls. But whispers followed her. Servants bowed quickly. Guards looked away too fast. Someone knew. Someone had seen the bond glow that night. Nyari locked Eli inside her room and told the guards, "He's resting. He needs repairs." Then she went to the palace control tower to erase the records. But the system flashed a red message. "Activity flagged. Bond energy detected." And under it, "Reported to royal security." Nyari's stomach turned to ice. She ran back to her room only to find the door wide open. Eli was gone. The bed untouched, the curtains blowing gently in the wind. On the table was a note written in perfect handwriting. "I don't want to hurt you, Princess, so I'm leaving before I cause more trouble." She held the note tightly. Her heart breaking. He thought he was the problem, but he didn't know the real danger. She turned to the window and climbed out, running into the shadows of the night. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. Nyari wore a long hooded cloak to hide her face. She searched the lower levels of the palace grounds, the abandoned paths, the secret passages. Then she found his trail, a thin blue line glowing softly along the stone. Her bond with him had left a connection. She could feel his presence. She could feel his fear. Meanwhile, Eli moved quietly through the dark alleys of the city. He didn't understand everything, but he had seen Nyari's pain, her fear, her body glowing with strange energy. He believed he had hurt her. He believed leaving was the only way to keep her safe. As he reached the city edge, he heard voices, guards, fast and angry. "Scan the area, the human unit must not escape." He ducked into an old transport tunnel, running silently between metal walls, but he was not built for stealth. Soon boots echoed behind him. He ran faster, his mind filled with one thought. "Don't let them catch me." Suddenly, a beam of blue light shot past his shoulder. He stumbled, hit the ground hard. The guards surrounded him, weapons ready. A commander stepped forward. "Deactivate now, companion." "By order of the Queen." Before Eli could speak, a voice shouted from above, "Stand down!" Nyari dropped from the rooftop, her hands glowing with bonfire. The guards froze, shocked by the sight of a glowing royal. "You dare touch what is mine?" she growled. The commander stepped back. "Your Highness, we were told the unit was unstable." She raised her hand, light sparking in her palm. "He is not unstable. He is bonded." The guards looked at each other nervously. They had never seen a princess defend a machine. Nyari walked slowly to Eli, helping him up. He stared at her, confused. "Why did you come?" he asked softly. She looked into his eyes. "Because you're not just a companion, you're mine." Then she turned to the guards. "If the Queen wants war, tell her to come find me." She took Eli's hand and ran toward the old escape tunnels under the city. The path was narrow and dark, filled with ancient roots and dripping walls. But Nyari didn't care. She had chosen her path, even if it meant losing her crown as they disappeared into the shadows. Eli looked at her. "Where are we going?" Nyari smiled sadly. "To the place where no one will judge us," she whispered. Far away from the throne, the royal halls of the palace were filled with silence. But it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence before a storm. Queen Viraya stood alone in the Hall of Stars. Her eyes cold and sharp like ice blades. In front of her floated a glowing crystal, showing moving images of Nyari and Eli escaping through the tunnels. "She has chosen the forbidden path," the queen said slowly. Behind her, the royal assassin knelt, his head low, his eyes hidden by a silver mask. "I trained her to be strong," the queen whispered. Not soft. She bonded with an earthborn construct, a tool meant to serve. She forgets her blood. The assassin did not speak. He only waited, like a shadow ready to move. The queen's voice turned sharper. "Find her. Bring her back alive." She paused, then added coldly, "But the human, make sure he never touches her again, far away." Deep in the forest caves beyond the city border, Nyari and Eli moved through the darkness. The caves were cold and wet, filled with old echoes and glowing vines. Nyari wore a dark cloak to hide her royal colors. Eli walked beside her, his hand never leaving hers. He had stopped asking questions. He could see the pain in her eyes, the weight she carried. Still his voice was gentle. "Princess, you should rest," but she shook her head. "I'm not your princess anymore," she said quietly. "I gave that up when I chose you." They found shelter in an old outpost long forgotten by the Empire. Inside, Nyari collapsed onto a bench, her hands shaking. The bonfire inside her pulsed like a heartbeat. She was growing stronger, faster, but also unstable. Her powers were new and wild. Sometimes when she touched metal, it melted. Sometimes when she cried, the air shimmered. Eli sat beside her, gently wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "You don't have to speak," he said softly, "but I will stay with you until you want to." She looked at him, her eyes full of a sadness he didn't understand. "You were made to be soft," she said, "but I fear you'll have to become hard for me." Suddenly, a loud sound echoed from the outside, crackling static, then silence. Eli stood quickly, scanning the area. "There's movement outside," he said. Nyari stood too, her eyes glowing faintly. "They've found us." A sharp hiss filled the air as the door blasted open. Smoke poured in, followed by black-armored soldiers. Eli moved fast, shielding Nyari with his body. But before they could attack, a familiar voice cut through the smoke. "Enough!" Queen Varaya stepped through. Dressed in golden armor, her eyes glowing bright with royal power. She raised her hand and the guards stopped moving. Nyari stepped forward slowly. "Mother," she said with a voice both defiant and soft. The queen's lips pressed tightly. "My daughter died the moment she chose a machine over her people." "I chose love," Nyari replied. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Then you chose weakness." Nyari's hands trembled, her bonfire beginning to glow. But Eli touched her wrist gently. Calming her, Queen Varaya looked at Eli. "You are not alive," she said sharply. "You are programming wires." "Skin?" Eli looked at her without fear. "I was made to care," he said, "and now I choose her, not because of a program, but because I feel it." The queen raised her hand, power gathering in her palm. "I will give you one chance." "Nyari," she said, "end the bond. Destroy the connection and return with me. Do this, and I will spare him." Nyari stepped forward, her heart breaking. "I can't," she said softly. "He is part of me now. I won't give him up. Not even for my throne." The queen's expression turned stone cold. "Then you leave me no choice." Suddenly, the assassin moved faster than light. He struck Eli hard, sending him crashing into the wall. Sparks flew from Eli's chest as he groaned in pain. "Eli!" Nyari screamed, rushing toward him, but the queen's guards held her back. Eli lay on the ground, one hand outstretched toward her. Nyari's power exploded. The bonfire roared around her like a storm, pushing back the guards, shaking the walls. She stood in front of Eli, eyes blazing. "Don't touch him again," she warned, "or I will burn this world down." Even the queen stepped back for a moment. Surprised by the strength, the assassin paused, unsure whether to attack again. But Nyari grabbed Eli and whispered, "Can you walk?" He nodded weakly, his system still rebooting. Together, they leapt through the broken sidewall, escaping once again into the wilds. This time the queen did not chase them. She watched the smoke rise and said quietly, "She will return when she sees what this bond truly costs." The old starship wreck groaned under the weight of the wind. Its metal walls were rusted, cracked, and covered in green moss. Inside, Nyari knelt beside Eli, patching the damage on his chest. His skin was torn, wires exposed. Sparks flickered under his ribs. "You shouldn't have taken that hit," Nyari whispered. Her finger shaking, Eli looked up at her, pain flickering across his face. "I was made to protect you," he said softly. "I don't want you to be made," Nyari snapped. "I want you to live." Eli tried to sit up, his systems buzzing weakly. "Living is hard when you're made of steel," he said with a broken smile. Nyari touched his cheek gently. "But your heart—" "It's not made of steel." Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Somewhere in the dark jungle, danger was waiting. Nyari knew they didn't have much time. The queen wouldn't stop. And the assassin, he never failed that night. They built a fire inside the wreck. Nyari wrapped Eli in a thermal cloak and sat beside him. Her fingers brushed his arm. The bonfire flared for a second. Warm and golden, Eli closed his eyes, breathing slow and steady. "Why do I feel more alive when you touch me?" he asked. Nyari looked at the flames, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because we were never meant to be apart." But peace didn't last. In the early morning, a scream echoed through the trees. Nyari and Eli rushed outside and found a small alien girl. Hiding behind a broken root, she was covered in dirt. Her hands bleeding, her eyes wide with fear. "Help me!" the child cried. "They're chasing me!" Nyari knelt beside her, holding her close. "Who is chasing you?" she asked gently. The girl pointed behind her, and then the sound of footsteps filled the forest. Loud, fast, angry 3 hunters appeared, wearing jungle armor and holding shock spears. "This isn't your fight," one of them said to Nyari. "She stole from us. We're taking her back." "She's a child," Nyari growled, stepping forward. "She's prey," the tallest hunter replied, raising his spear. But before Nyari could act, Eli stepped between them, his chest still broken. His balance still weak, but his eyes were steady. "You won't touch her," he said, voice calm. The hunters laughed. "And what will you do, soft one?" Eli didn't speak. He moved fast. Too fast, he grabbed the closest hunter's arm and twisted it, sending the weapon flying with a single move. He slammed the second to the ground. The third tried to stab him, but Eli caught the blade with his bare hand. His fingers sparked, but he didn't let go. Instead, he looked into the hunter's eyes and said, "You'll leave now." The hunter dropped the weapon and ran. The others followed, fear in their steps. Nyari stared in shock. "You fought them," she said. "I thought you weren't built for violence." Eli turned to her, his hand bleeding from the cut. "I wasn't," he said. "But I changed. For you." The little girl ran to Nyari and hugged her tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. Nyari smiled through her tears. "We'll keep you safe." Later, they took shelter deeper in the wreck. Eli sat near the fire, his hand wrapped in cloth. Nyari stared at him with new eyes. He was still gentle, still kind. But now she saw the strength behind his softness. He had fought to protect, not to destroy. He had stood between her and danger without blinking. "You're more than just a companion," she said. Eli looked up. "Then what am I?" Nyari hesitated, then whispered, "You're my life mate." The bonfire between them flared again. Stronger this time, it wrapped around them like invisible light. The little girl watched in awe. "Is that magic?" she asked. "No," Nyari replied, smiling softly. "That's love." But far above, hidden in the trees, the assassin watched with cold eyes. He had seen enough. He turned on his silent communicator. "The human has learned to fight," he whispered. "And the princess calls him life mate," a voice responded. "Then it's time, end them both." The air inside the wreck turned still. Too still, even the fire seemed to hold its breath. Nyari felt her chest tighten. Eli stood with his hand clenched, his sensors blinking red like warning lights. "There's someone outside," he said quietly. Nyari nodded. She didn't need to ask how he knew. She could feel it too. The bonfire in her chest pulsed sharply, like a silent alarm. The little girl clung to Nyari's cloak, eyes wide with fear. "Stay behind me," Nyari whispered. Eli moved toward the entrance of the wreck, scanning the shadows, then out of the darkness. He stepped forward, silent, smooth. Deadly, the assassin. He wore no armor, no weapon in hand. But his presence was heavier than steel. His silver mask caught the moonlight, reflecting cold silence. "Return with me, princess," he said, voice low and steady. "Or I will end the human." Right now, Nyari's eyes narrowed. "Touch him and I swear, I'll burn everything." The assassin tilted his head slightly. "I don't fear flames," he replied. "Then you haven't felt mine," Nyari said. Suddenly he moved, too fast for the human eye. But not faster than instinct. Nyari raised her hand and the bonfire erupted. A blast of golden blue light exploded from her palm, crashing into the assassin and throwing him back. He hit a rock wall but landed on his feet like a shadow reborn. His mask cracked slightly, but he didn't stop. Eli charged forward to protect Nyari. The assassin struck first. slicing through Eli's side with a glowing blade. Sparks flew, metal cracked, Eli fell hard, but pushed himself up again, blood and oil mixed on his skin. Not this time, he growled. Nyari screamed, rushing to Eli. Stay back, he shouted. He wants you, not me. But her heart couldn't listen. She grabbed Eli's hand and the bonfire surged again. This time it didn't just glow. It awakened. Energy crackled around them like a storm. Nyari's body lifted slightly above the ground, her hair floating like flame. Her eyes turned completely silver. Symbols from her ancient bloodline glowed on her arms and face. She wasn't just a princess anymore. She was something new, something powerful, something sacred. The assassin stepped back, confused for the first time. What are you? He whispered. Nyari's voice echoed with something deeper than herself. I am bonded, she said, and you just hurt the other half of me. She raised both hands, and the light from her bonfire formed two blades of pure energy. The air around her shimmered. Pulsing with heat and purpose, the assassin leapt forward, his own blade aimed for her chest, but she blocked it with one arm, breaking his weapon like it was made of glass. With her other hand, she struck him in the chest, sending him flying again. He crashed into the trees and did not rise. The jungle went still again, this time for real. Nyari collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Eli rushed to her. Despite his injuries, Nyari, he said. What did you just do? She looked at him, eyes fading back to normal. I think I became who I was always meant to be, she said weakly. Because of you. Eli's systems buzzed as he scanned her body. Your vitals are off the charts, your strength, speed, temperature. Everything's changing. Nyari smiled softly. The bonfire awakened my instinct, but your love gave it shape. The little girl peeked out from the corner. Are we safe now? She asked. Nyari nodded. For now, Eli sat down beside her, clearly hurting. Your systems are failing, she said, worried. I'll manage, he whispered. Just don't let go of me. She held his hand tightly. I won't. The bonfire around them dimmed, becoming soft again like a heartbeat at rest. But they both knew the danger wasn't over. If the queen sent the assassin, she would send more, worse, stronger, and next time there may be no warning. But Nyari was no longer the same girl who walked in the palace garden wishing for love. Now she was a warrior bound by the strongest force her kind had ever known. Not fear, not duty, but love, deep, forbidden, real. As the night deepened, Eli rested his head against her shoulder. You changed everything, he whispered. No, Nyari replied. You did. You made me feel safe in a world that doesn't believe in softness. And now, I'll fight for that softness with everything I have. The sky above Zerai turned dark, not from night, but from something far worse. A giant shadow passed over the land. Black ships, shaped like arrows, hovered above the clouds, silent, smooth, deadly. The queen had sent her final weapon, the Order of Null. They were not soldiers, not assassins, they were erasers. Their mission was simple: erase the bond. Erase the girl, erase everything in the jungle. Deep inside the broken starship, Eli's sensors picked up the ships before anyone could see them. He turned to Nyari, still resting after the battle. They've come, he said. Nyari opened her eyes, already knowing. She could feel it, her bonfire dimming, her chest tightening, like the sky itself wanted to crush her. Take the girl and run, Nyari said. Eli shook his head. I'm not leaving you. Nyari smiled sadly. I wasn't asking. Outside, a beam of black light shot down from the clouds. From it, the Order stepped forward. 7 figures covered in dark armor, no eyes, no mouths, no voices. Only silence followed them. They walked without fear. Their energy drained light, color, even sound. Eli stepped outside first. He knew he couldn't fight them. But he had to protect her long enough. Long enough for her to awaken the full bonfire. I don't want to hurt you, he said to the Order. They didn't reply. They didn't need to. One of them raised a hand and a wave of darkness slammed into Eli. He flew backward, crashing into a tree. His systems blinking red, but he stood again. Wobbly, broken, but standing, Nyari stepped forward, the bonfire lighting her skin again. I'm tired of running, she said. The leader of the Order raised a dark spear. The others moved forward, slow but sure. Then Nyari did something strange. She closed her eyes and reached for Eli. Even across the distance, he felt her hand inside his mind. You don't have to fight alone, she whispered. And for the first time ever, the bonfire didn't just glow. It shared. Eli felt it pour into him. Not as heat, but as memory, feeling, love. His damaged circuits healed. His body stood straighter. His voice grew stronger. "Let's finish this," he said, standing beside her. The bonfire formed around them like armor, living energy, soft and deadly. Together, they faced the order. The jungle shook. Birds flew, trees bent, and the light turned golden. The order struck first, fast, sharp, full of void. But they were no longer fighting a princess and a machine. They were fighting a bond that couldn't be erased. Nyari moved with grace and fury. Every time her hand moved, light followed. Every time Eli struck, it was with strength powered by care. Not anger, but love. One by one, the members of the order fell. Their black armor cracked under the weight of something they could not understand. Emotion, connection, heart. The last member stood alone. It looked at them, then vanished in silence, retreating like a shadow fleeing sunrise. When it was over, the jungle stood still, and then it bloomed. Real flowers, real colors, real warmth returned to the land. The queen stood in her tower, watching the feed go dark. Her hands shook for the first time in years. "She won," the advisor whispered. "No," the queen replied, "she became." Later that week, the throne was offered back to Nyari. The people had seen her fight, seen her protect, seen her choose love. But Nyari smiled and said, "I have already found my crown." She looked at Eli, who stood beside her, not as a servant, but as an equal. They built a home at the edge of the jungle. Not a palace, not a base. Just a place where flowers grew and music played, where laughter filled the air and the little alien girl called them both family. Eli fixed broken machines for the nearby villages. Nyari taught children how to awaken their inner bonfire. Not for battle, but for healing, for peace, for love. The people came to call her the soft warrior, not because she was weak, but because her strength came from gentleness, and her gentleness could not be broken. One night under the twin moons, Nyari sat beside Eli. She leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Do you still think you were just made to care?" Eli smiled and kissed her forehead. "No," he said softly. "I think I was made to love you." And in the quiet night, the bonfire glowed, warm, bright, eternal.